You inherited the automation stack, 12 workflows, 3 connectors, a dashboard nobody opens. None of it touches what's actually carrying the business. Approvals route through you, exceptions pile in your inbox, and the questions that should have never been escalated this far still land on your desk. The team thinks the stack is impressive, but you know the bottleneck your business runs on. In this episode, we're going to walk through the automation index. It'll help you achieve an automation stack that earns its place on the P&L and a leader who isn't the team's integration layer. Hi, I'm Summer, founder of Driven Connection, and we eliminate inefficiencies that stunt growth. So what is an automation actually, and why does most of it not relieve the load? Most leaders treat automation as a task elimination decision. The frame is, what can I take off my plate? Russell Ackoff, the systems thinking pioneer whose work shaped how generations of leaders learn to see organizations as connected wholes rather than separate parts, named the trap 40 years ago. The more efficient you are at doing the wrong thing, the wronger you become. Automation amplifies whatever process you point at it. Point it at the wrong process, and you get a faster version of that inefficiency that you already had there. Automation is a leverage point decision, not a task decision, where you put the tool decides which pathway in your business gets a clean signal and which one stays a misfire. The real question isn't what can I automate? It's what's costing me the most to leave manual. And most leaders don't ask that question until the build is already running and the cost is already booked. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. A client I worked with this year ran a services business in growth mode with 15 people, revenue compounding faster than her operations could absorb. Her automation stack looked impressive on paper. ClickUp running her project work, Zapier connecting her customer relationship system, or CRM, dashboards refreshing every morning. Everything was running, and she was the one keeping it that way. She was approving expenses on weekends, retyping client information between systems that couldn't talk to each other, and finishing every quarter further from the target she'd set than the one before. Her best people had even stopped bringing decisions to meetings because nothing was moving without her sign-off anyway. When I sat with her workflows, the pattern surfaced inside an hour. Every one of her automations lived at the edges of her work. Status update meetings that the team didn't read, reports that summarized what everybody already knew, and notifications that would fire without changing what anyone did. Meanwhile, every client-facing exception still landed in her inbox. Every approval over $1,000 still waited for her sign-off, and every onboarding step needed her in the loop. We rescored every candidate workflow on frequency, frustration, and cost. 3 weeks later, 2 of her automations were retired, and 2 new ones were in production. An overall routing flow and an exception triage workflow. Approval cycle time dropped from 5 days to under 24 hours. The team stopped waiting on her to make decisions she'd already thought she'd shown them how to make. So if leaders know they're automating the wrong things, why do they keep doing it? 4 causes account for most of the breakdowns. First, exhaustion level prioritization. When the day is full of firefighting, the only automation decision a depleted leader can make is the comfortable one. The work that's carrying you takes a week to map and a quarter to redesign. The form that fills itself takes an afternoon. So what gets built? Not because it earned the build, but because it was the only choice the leader had bandwidth to make. The P&L cost shows up in the leader's time and the most expensive line on an org chart. Second, comfort over constraint. Easy to automate isn't the same as most valuable to automate. Bain & Company's 2024 automation research found that leading companies reduced process costs by 22% in a single year, while lagging companies managed only 8%. The gap was decision discipline, not the technology. The P&L cost shows up in forfeited revenue because the actual bottleneck stays the bottleneck. Third, tool thinking over system thinking. Thomas Davenport, who studies enterprise technology adoption and writes regularly in the Harvard Business Review, named the failure mode directly: automation sprawl. That's 12 tools doing pieces of one thing, none of them touching the one decision question underneath. And the P&L cost shows up in payroll on integration labor, plus the reoccurring fees and tools that nobody is owning. Fourth, no exception design. The happy path gets automated while every edge case still lands on the leader. The cost shows up in customer experience erosion because every exception waits for the same overloaded inbox. If you can name those 4 causes, you can stop scoring for comfort and start scoring for constraint. The highest leverage move when you're staring at automation stacks is to ask one question: where is the constraint? The founder of the theory of constraints put it cleanest: an hour saved at a non-bottleneck is a mirage. You can make the marketing intake form fill itself out. But if your bottleneck is the legal review that followed, you've saved nothing. The work waits longer at the bottleneck instead of at the intake, and the team is slightly less busy at the front end and exactly as stuck at the back end where it always is. The system's thinking truth under every wrong assumption is most leaders aim where it's easiest to see. The second move is to decide where the human stays in. The most disciplined manufacturers in the world built an entire philosophy on this idea, and we'll get to it by name in just a moment. The machine runs at speed and knows when to stop. When something is off and the line halts, a human steps in. That isn't failure. That's what we call design. When you score a candidate workflow, the question isn't, is this annoying? The question is, does this sit at a constraint? And have I designed where the human stays in? If the answer is both, you're automating the work that's carrying you. If the answer is no, you're building the next mirage. The same decision plays out at 2 opposite ends of 2 cases. Case A: Knight Capital. On August 1st, 2012, this Wall Street trading firm deployed an update to its automated equity router across its production servers. A piece of legacy code remained active on one machine that hadn't received the new code. And when the market opened, that machine started sending millions of erroneous orders. The kill switch wasn't designed in. The human in the loop triggered that should have stopped the runway didn't exist. 45 minutes later, roughly $440 million was gone, and the firm never recovered as an independent company. The automation had no point at which the system would pause and look at a human to make a decision. It was efficient at doing the wrong thing. Case B: Toyota's founder invented an automated loom that could detect a broken thread and stop itself instantly back in 1924. That single mechanism became the foundation of the Toyota production system, which translates an automation into a human touch. A century later, Toyota workers still pull a cord that stops the production line thousands of times a day. Every pull halts the line and brings a human in. That's what Toyota means when it says automation. Not the absence of a human, but the deliberate design of where the human stays in. Both cases start with the same decision: where does the human stay in the loop? Knight Capital actually didn't decide, but Toyota did. Here's how you make that decision in your business starting this week. The Automation Index is the audit you run before any new automation gets the green light. The index has 4 steps. Step 1, inventory the work. List 10 candidate workflows, mixing new automation ideas with automations already running. At SMB scale, that looks like a weekly status report, the expense approval over $1,000, and the exception escalation path. Write each as a single line, and if you can't name what it does in one line, that's its own signal. Step 2, score each workflow on 3 dimensions, 1 to 5. Frequency, once a quarter is a 1. Multiple times a day is a 5. Frustration, mildly inconvenient is a 1. Visible team friction or client impact is a 5. Cost, under $500 a year is a 1. Over $50,000 a year or critical mission is a 5. Step 3, calculate the index by multiplying the 3 scores. The result lands somewhere between 1 and 125. Score the list. The latest scorers are your real candidates, and anything under 25 isn't earning the build. Step 4. Pick your top 3. Design where the human stays in and retire the 2 from the bottom. The retirement is the discipline. Sprawl is what happens when nobody decides to stop. To recap, Step 1, inventory 10 workflows. Step 2, score each on frequency, frustration, and cost. Step 3, multiply and sort. Step 4, pick 3 to build with human in the loop, retire from the bottom 2. Run the automation index on your real stack this week, and you'll see which of your automations shift the load and which ones move it sideways. That's the start of an automation stack that earns its place on the P&L and a leader who isn't the team's integration layer. You're learning, you're growing, and you're building a system-led business where your automation stack earns what it costs. Each episode names a different pattern. Subscribe so the next one finds you. I'm your host, Summer Ames Prodan. We'll fix another inefficiency on the next episode of Driven Growth.